Hi everybody, and welcome to this presentation on gut health. My name's Andrea Bales. For those of you that don't know me, haven't met me, I'm an independent partner with Zinzino, and I'm also a registered nutritional therapist with a keen interest in digestive health. So my objective today is to try and give you a bit of background around the digestive system. We haven't got long to go through it, so I just want to keep it brief, and I want to be able to give you information that's going to help you with your customers and yourself, obviously, to understand the importance of the Zinobiotic product that is part of our health protocol. So just moves, there we go. So obviously, as a registered nutritional therapist, I have a passion to help more people with wellness, and this is really the same ethos that Zinzino and I share. So when I got introduced to Zinzino, clearly as a nutritionist, I use lots of other suppliers for nutritional products and supplements. But what I really liked about Zinzino initially was the fact that Dr. Paul Clayton was involved. And I remember reading one of his first books when I first started my journey, my college training back in the year 2000. And I also met him at a number of conferences over the years. So I am very familiar with his work, and I'm very familiar with the way that he is on the same sort of mission, really. So it's really about, for me, my purpose and my role here is to help more people to enjoy the benefits that improved health has, not just the number of people that I can see in my clinic or my practice, because that is limited, clearly. I am just me. So today then I want to talk to you, it's just a very brief introduction to the gut microbiome, and we're going to be looking at what is the gut microbiome, what role it plays in our health, prebiotics, and how fibre affects the gut. And then at the end of this presentation, I want to talk to you about diversity. So the reason, as I've said, for today's session is to introduce you to Zinobiotic and its role in our digestive system. So let's have a little look then at the digestive system. Now, bear in mind that the digestive system is a huge organ, if you like. It's a huge system. I mean, it starts as soon as we put food into our mouth and we start chewing and producing enzymes, all the way down the food pipe into the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, the liver, the gallbladder, all the way through the system until we excrete the waste products through the rectum. So it's a very complex system. And today I'm going to try and just give you a little bit of background to the gut microbiome, which is the most important thing with regards to Zinobiotic. So when we talk about the gut microbiome, it is really, the official term for it is microbiota, the gut microbiota. Just incidentally, when we're referring to the gut, we are referring to the digestive system, but more often than not, we're referring to the colon. So it's the large intestine and the bowel that we are referring to. And the microbiota that we have in our digestive systems or in our colon consist of bacteria, fungi, viruses, and in some cases parasites. And it's like we have our own complete ecosystem. We have our own rainforest with all the different species. We have our own underwater system of fish and species and corals and plants, and we have our own sort of ecosystem that exists within our own gut, which this is what we are made of. And in actual fact, the research is showing that we are pretty much 99% bacteria. We're made up of microbes that account for up to 99% of us. And so 1% of our human body is actually human, is actually tissue. So it's quite fascinating that these bugs make up a huge part of us. So when we are looking at the microbiome then, or the microbiota, so I'll refer to it as both, what we are really trying to achieve for health is to have lots and lots of the beneficial bacteria and a lot less of the pathogenic bacteria. Now, in every single human being, we're going to have some of each. And unfortunately, what we're seeing a lot more of in today's society, because of our lifestyle, because of our diets, because of our choices of foods, we're seeing this balance way out of sync. This often is the opposite way around. And what we're seeing is the pathogenic bacteria are being encouraged to overgrow and outweigh the beneficial bacteria. And the beneficial bacteria have a massive job. You know, they're responsible for a lot of things in the body. I'm going to go into those in a second. But you know what the research and a lot of the evidence and the studies that are coming out nowadays are showing is that we can actually pinpoint very specific bacteria to autoimmune disease development. Now, so it's almost like, well, imagine if there is a specific bacteria that's thriving in your gut, and you know that that's associated with obesity or diabetes or an autoimmune condition like rheumatoid arthritis. Imagine being able to eradicate that bacteria and throw it out effectively and allow a lot more of the beneficial bacteria to thrive in there, which means that you're going to be able to support people who have these conditions by introducing a lot more of the beneficial bacteria. Now, another name for beneficial bacteria that you've probably heard of is probiotics. And probiotics are something that people have been taking these for a long time, and there are lots and lots of different types of probiotic bacteria, different names: lactobacillus, bifidobacterium. You know, there's lots of strains of those as well. So, and they all have a different role to play. They all have different functions within the gut. But, you know, in order for those beneficial probiotic bacteria to flourish, we need lots of other things in place as well. We need to be, you know, making sure that we're encouraging these pathogenic bad guys to be in reduced amounts. So here you can see this little slide. It's an amusing slide. It's showing you that there is often a daily battle going on for, you know, the pathogenic bacteria want to thrive. They want to survive in this lovely, moist, warm environment. And so do the healthy guys, because the healthy guys are there to do their jobs. So it really is about what we are putting into our digestive systems that predicts how the microbiota will perform. So the role of the gut microbiome is that it is pretty much 60 to 70% of our immune system resides within the gut. So those healthy bacteria, those beneficial bacteria, are essential for optimizing your immune function. If you've got a healthy, you know, beneficial bacteria, if you've got a healthy microbiome, then that's going to help to decrease the risks that are associated with things like cardiovascular disease, diabetes type 2, obesity, and some cancers. We have probably, I know that I've been talking about this recently, the gut-brain axis, and the fact that within the gut, we have a second brain. We have this amazing system in there that releases the brain chemicals that are influencing our mental health. And so actually having beneficial bacteria that are in higher amounts than the pathogenic bacteria can actually help to improve things like depression and anxiety. Um, there's also lots of benefits for people who have things like chronic fatigue syndromes, pain syndromes, people who suffer with insomnia and stress. So, again, the more beneficial bacteria we have, the less people will suffer unduly and or improvements can be made. And then we have the GI disorders. So things like IBS, which is so common, and inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's disease or colitis. Having a healthy gut microbiome can actually help to prevent the onset of these diseases. So we've mentioned the modulation of the immune system, lots and lots. The more beneficial bacteria you have, the more wide variety of different species you have within the gut. That's when we start to see a flourishing immunity. It helps with your gut motility. So these beneficial bacteria actually help to prevent diarrhea and help to get the motility of the feces moving through the colon. So it helps to prevent constipation. Building a colony is so important. So we want to colonize as many of these healthy beneficial bacteria as possible. So that's another thing that the gut microbiome is important for. Another massively important thing from a nutritional perspective is that it actually helps to improve your nutritional status because you can absorb those nutrients much more effectively, especially the B vitamins, especially vitamin K, and the minerals magnesium, zinc, and calcium. We've touched on the gut-brain axis, so mood management is actually governed by our gut health as well, and the impact that it has on our inflammatory environment. Now, you may be aware of the balance soil and the impact that that can have on the inflammatory environment. But in the same way, we can be producing something called secretory IgA in the gut, which is inflammatory. And so when we have low grade levels of inflammation happening within the gut wall, that can have a knock-on effect. And that's where we start to see things like people becoming more sensitive to foods or excuse me, or food allergies that's starting to happen because we've got this increased production of these antibodies within the colon. And that then becomes damaged. But that's a whole other story. That's what I'm talking here about, something called leaky gut. And that's another area that perhaps one day I'll go into. But the other great thing about having having lots of beneficial bacteria is how it can regulate your metabolism. And it really does help to support people with weight management and their blood glucose control as well. So prebiotics, they're different to probiotics. So probiotics refers to the actual bacteria, and prebiotics actually refers to the foods that we eat in our diet that are high in fiber. And there are lots of different types of foods. So you can see some on here, the onions, soybeans, asparagus, bananas, particularly the greener bananas. So overripe bananas have some fiber, but nowhere near as much as green bananas. The leeks, some breads, artichokes, and garlic. So these are some of the foods that are high in fiber. And I've added a couple more here. So garlic and chicory and barley and honey and oats. And cooked and cooled potatoes are particularly high in something we refer to as resistant starch. And then the legume family, the lentils, the chickpeas, and things like that are also very rich in fiber. Now, these fibers are actually very indigestible. They're very sort of difficult for our enzymes to break down. So this is how these fibers actually help to feed the gut microbiome community. And the beneficial bacteria within your gut, the happy, healthy ones, they ferment the fibers. And then as a result of that, they produce energy to flourish and reproduce even more. So the beneficial bacteria adore being fed fiber because that's what makes them reproduce and flourish. So you can see that having a high fiber diet is actually going to help to influence the landscape of the gut microbiome and benefit the overall health by maintaining or increasing the population of these healthy gut microbes. So here's the process then that it goes through. So we eat the fiber, we consume the fiber. Now, whether that is in the form of high fiber foods or whether it is in the form of xenobiotic fiber blend, these then produce something that we refer to as short chain fatty acids. And the names of those short chain fatty acids are butyrate, propionate, and acetate. And what they then produce from the healthy bacteria fermenting and becoming much more overpopulating the gut microbiome, they then produce these postbiotics, which are commonly known as lactobacillus, bifidobacterium, akkermansia. There are trillions, hundreds of species, hundreds and thousands of different species, but these are the common, well-known ones. Now, a lot of customers that we're going to be coming across, and particularly myself, have very low fiber diets. You can imagine anybody who's eating ultra processed foods, so anybody who's living on takeaway foods, processed foods from the supermarket, packaged foods, what I call white flour foods, so refined foods, pastries, biscuits, cakes, donuts, all of those types of things. They're going to have a really low fiber diet. You can see that the majority of fibers are coming from fruits and vegetables. They're the high fiber foods. And the legumes, the sort of like the chickpeas, the lentils, the peas, the beans, are very often not consumed by people eating ultra processed diets. So it is really important for anybody who is not eating lots of fiber to be influencing their gut microbiome with a fiber blend. So this was a study that was carried out in 2019. And I just thought it was interesting because they were looking at the effects of a diet based on inulin-rich vegetables, which are fiber-rich, basically, because inulin is a type of prebiotic fiber. And they were looking at how this impacted the gut health and nutritional behavior in healthy humans. So they took a small group of healthy individuals and gave them these prebiotic fibers to eat. They assessed their nutrient intake, they assessed their fecal microbiota composition, they looked at their microbial fermentation, so that is their short chain fatty acids, and they looked at their gastrointestinal systems and food-related behavior. And actually what they followed was a controlled diet based on fiber-rich vegetables with 15 grams of inulin-type fructans each day. And at the end of that study, the primary microbial modification included an increased proportion of the health-promoting bifidobacterium. And they also demonstrated greater satiety, which is basically feeling full and satisfied. They had a reduced desire to eat sweet, salty, or fatty food. So it reduced all those naughty cravings, if you like. And they had an increased positive attitude towards these fiber-rich vegetables and an improved intestinal discomfort by the end of the intervention. So it just kind of is an indication, a little demonstration really, that it can help lots of aspects by just 15 grams of fiber a day. So these healthy bacteria, the microbes that get broken down by fermentation, produce the short chain fatty acids that we call postbiotics. And postbiotics have a range of health benefits. So short chain fatty acid abundance then is essential for the prevention of chronic conditions. And here's another paper that I picked up on, which is a 2019 study on over 300 one-year-olds, suggested that significant associations between the levels of short-chain fatty acids due to an infant's diet and development of allergies, atopy, and asthma. It showed that those with the highest levels of short-chain fatty acids had significantly less atopic conditions, so things like eczema, asthma, allergies, allergic rhinitis, and those sorts of things. And they were less likely to have asthma between the ages of 3 to 6 years. And in addition, less likely to have a diagnosis of food allergy or allergic rhinitis. So what they're basically saying here is that the higher levels of butyrate and propionate in early life are associated with protection against atopic conditions like eczema and asthma. So that's a really powerful study, I think, especially for, because there's so many more children now being diagnosed and are on asthma medications and eczema creams and things like that, and probably unnecessarily so, if we could actually improve the levels of prebiotics in their diet. So finally then, the diversity is a key element to improving your healthy microbiome. And I think that this is really useful to talk to your customers about alongside the other products, especially if you're prescribing or not prescribing, especially if you're recommending the health protocol, and especially if your customer has any health conditions, any sort of chronic health conditions, where perhaps autoimmunity is part of their picture, then recommending that they have a varied diet. And the idea here is that we have a diversity challenge. So the more varied your diet, the more different types of foods that you put into your body over the course of a week, the more diverse your gut microbiome will become, because we get the bacteria from the foods that we eat. So if you were having, chicken and vegetables or rice, and then you were having a natural yogurt with some fresh berries, then you would fill in each of the boxes for each of the individual types of foods that you eat. Now, in my business, in my practice, it is not unusual. Excuse me, I've just rushed my lunch. It's not unusual to see people eating the same food for breakfast, Weetabix, for example, every single day with some milk and some sugar. It's not unusual to see people eating the same lunch every day. They buy the same sandwich on their way to work, or they go to the same, sandwich shop or something like that at lunchtime, or they have the jacket potato with the cheese in the canteen. And then in the evening, whatever is convenient may well be picked up on the way home from work. And that might be a processed meal with very, very, few vegetables in there. So it isn't unusual to see people who think that they're eating healthily to have a very unvaried diet. So this diversity is based around the Mediterranean diet, and the Mediterranean diet has been proven time and time again now to be high in polyphenols and antioxidants, and therefore those polyphenols and those antioxidants can actually help to increase the numbers of healthy bacteria, the bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus, and they reduce the number of pathogens like Clostridium perfringens and Clostridium histolyticum. Yes, histolyticum. So we also know that having high polyphenols in the diet, and of course we have our polyphenols in the balance oil as well as the Extend, these actually increase Akkermansia, and Akkermansia is a species of bacteria that our gut microbiomes need for helping with obesity and weight loss. So when we have more prolific amounts of Akkermansia, we actually start to see people losing weight just by adding extra foods and fibre into the diet. So yes, so Mediterranean diet is absolutely key. Now, I think, the Mediterranean diet realistically should be consisting of, whole grains, fish, meat occasionally, it doesn't say no meat, it just means, lower intakes of meat, but it's predominantly based around a plant-based diet. So high fruit and vegetables, lots of oils, healthy oils, avocados, oily fish, olive oils, olives, and I think the occasional glass of red wine is fine too, because that's got all the resveratrol in there that you need to get the antioxidants from that. So finally, just a quick slide about Zinobiotic then, because you now know that fibre is one of the most important things that our bodies require in order to help the gut microbiome be healthy. So this is what Zinobiotic has been designed to do. It's a concentrated blend of 5 different types of fibre. It has a digestion resistant starch in there. It has inulin, which I mentioned in that study earlier, from chicory root, and the beta glucans from oats. And it has fructooligosaccharides as well, from chicory root and psyllium husks. And the fibers from that powder are fermented in the colon to produce the short chain fatty acids to help the beneficial bacteria reproduce and grow and flourish, and to bat out the bad guys. So 1 or 2 scoops a day if you can stomach it. Now, if you have any conditions like gas, bloating, and that can be gas, upward gas, and it can be gas, downward gas. So we're talking about flatulence as well as burping and belching. IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, the IBD, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, those sorts of inflammatory conditions, as well as constipation, diarrhea, and reflux, then I always recommend that people start slowly and build up the dosage, because this can really antagonize the bloating and make people wary of taking the product. And obviously that's not what we want to do. So I would recommend that if you've got someone who has a pre-existing condition like these, definitely start low, go slow, and build it up gradually. So just on the reflux side of things, a question that came up for me was how can a prebiotic fibre blend benefit reflux? Well, reflux can also be influenced by bacteria, and one of those bacteria that we have in the stomach is known as Helicobacter pylori. And when we have an overgrowth of bacteria, then putting fibres into the system is only going to help to reduce the overgrowth. It can't necessarily get rid of the reflux, but it would certainly be part of a support program that could influence the reflux. And again, this go slow and low with people with acid reflux conditions, because it may antagonize initially. So just start slowly. So I would like to say thank you. I hope that I've covered every aspect to do with gut health and fibres. Really, the gut is, as I said at the beginning, it's a massive area. There's so many other aspects to gut health that I can cover at a later stage. And I would like to do that as well. So if anybody has any questions or has any ideas about what you would like me to cover from a gut health perspective, then ping me a message on our WhatsApp group or on Facebook, and I will happily help you out. So thank you very much, and yeah, bye.